I'm talking about. Okay, so anyways, so one of the new goals, one of the new process goals is intake work, and the basic issue it addresses is how do we bring work items into our team? How do we break them up into potentially smaller chunks, and how do we what do we do to accept this work into the team? How do we prioritize it? Who does the prioritization? And how are we going to manage it? We're taking more of a lean style, more of an agile style, perhaps a traditional style, as the case may be. So for those of you who have never seen these goal diagrams before, one of the things about the DA toolkit is we don't prescribe what to do. We walk you through, here are the issues you need to think about. So when you bring work into the team, you need to worry about, how are you accepting the work, who's doing the prioritization, and so on. And then you have multiple options for ways you can do that, because different teams are in different situations. We're firm believers in context and working in a situational manner. Some of the things that many of you were talking about in the earlier session. So this is at the heart of DA. So where the frameworks tend to prescribe and limit your choices, DA would rather give you choices and help you make better choices. So that way you can have a fit for purpose process. So anyways, long-winded discussion of there's different ways you can bring work into a team. One of the things we did was we refactored. So some of this previous materials, such as how do we go about prioritizing work, and how do we go about managing the work items once we brought them into the team, used to be part of the address changing stakeholder needs process goal. So this was this refactoring was an example of a process goal that it probably wasn't cohesive, basically. It was serving multiple purposes, and we didn't quite know where things should land. And then with the great work we've been doing in value streams, it became very clear that we were missing this intake work process goal. So we pulled some of the ideas, some of the techniques out of addressing changing stakeholder needs, and helped to form the basis of intake work. So for those of you who've been using the toolkit for a while, you'll notice this difference. It's a fairly interesting refactoring. We also added a more detailed support for measurement in the toolkit in the form of 2 process goals, one of which is organized metrics. So how are we going to go about organizing our metrics program? What's our overall strategy? Are we doing OKRs, KPIs, some sort of GQM approach? What types of measures are we taking? What's our overall focus? Are we measuring inputs and outputs? Are we measuring outcomes? So there's some very interesting decisions to be made as to your metrics program. So anyway, so just wanted to point that out. We also have added a process goal called measure outcomes. So for those of you taking an OKR or a GQM based approach, or even a KPI approach, what we're doing here is basically categorizing potential metrics by what you want to improve. Do you want to improve data quality? Do you want to improve team health? Do you want to increase value, the value generation of your team, and so on. So this is something that, so a couple interesting points here. It supports, it really is based on some sort of a goal or outcome driven approach, such as OKRs or GQM. It is also an interesting thing to notice is that there's a lot of metrics here, and this is not complete, by the way. We'll see some more in a minute, but the thing is I've noticed a trend, or I've noticed a really bad habit, might be a better way of saying it, in the industry, where a lot of people will look for tell me the top 10 Agile metrics, give me the top X Agile metrics, top 7, top 10, and there's all these wonderful articles about this, by the way. You can find lists, reasonably short lists of potential metrics, and they're all good lists, don't get me wrong, but it's completely naive. And the reason why I say that is, there's this very clear trend in the industry to take it, an OKR or some sort of outcome-driven approach. And so on the one hand, we're all talking about, yeah, we gotta focus on outcomes. We're gonna measure it because what we measure improves and all that good sort of stuff. And then seconds later, I hear this request for, tell me the top 10 metrics list. Come on, right? Just, are you listening to what you're saying? Because your potential outcomes will be different. Your teams, what your team is trying to achieve will be different than what the team down the hall is trying to achieve, or the team in another organization is trying to achieve. So you need to tailor your metric strategy to your current needs. And because your needs will change, your situation changes, your focus changes over time, so will the metrics that you gather. Now, yes, there are some, the bolded metrics are very common, or reasonably effective strategies for each of those categories. But if you're not trying to improve data quality, you're certainly not going to be. I would think you're probably not going to be measuring, taking data quality metrics and so on, right? So we really need to be smart about the way that we approach metrics, and it's the same old challenge that in DA we make your choices explicit. We don't dumb things down. And some people get overwhelmed by, there's 50 or 60 potential metrics here. Oh no, it's so complicated. But the thing is, you need to, I hope you want to make your own choices and focus on what you want to improve, which is the fundamentals of, a KPI or a OKR based approach. And of course, metrics are, measurement is part of the overall governance strategy. So I just wanted to point that, and it has been there for a long time. I just wanted to point that out. And what's interesting is, so when we started, actually I'll go back a few slides. When we started putting this goal diagram together, we realized that there was several outcomes that we were identifying. And I would argue that improved data quality is probably one of them. And so this is probably going to move or get, there'll be a refactoring where this moves at some point. But some of the categories, some of these decision points are actually specific to process blades. So for example, here we see the security process blade. So how do you approach physical and info security in your organization? And it makes sense to have measures that are focused on security. Now, you could argue that, the outcome that we want is, we want to become more secure, we want to improve security. Okay, fair enough. But right now, our philosophy is that when there are these domain-specific metrics that are very clearly applicable to a given process blade, in this case, security, that it really belongs in that blade in order to have a cohesive story, and also to make it very clear that measurement should pervade your organization, and as a result, it should pervade your toolkit. So, anyways, this is our thinking on that, and plus also another side benefit is it does decrease the size of that previous goal diagram, because that was getting pretty big and unusable. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. So why were we so focused on metrics, particularly given that measurement and governance has always been baked right into DA? Well, it's because there's a clear need in the marketplace for better understanding of metrics in the Agile space. And so as a result, we have developed a micro accreditation for Agile metrics. Now, this is going to be released in September. I'll talk about the release date in a second. So what is the micro cred focused on? It's several hours of online training. So it's an e-course offering, somewhere between 3 and 5 hours, depending on how much material, there's some required material, core content, and then there's some optional material as well, because many of you already understand some fundamental concepts and metrics, so we don't need, you don't need to go through it again. So, we make that optional. So we cover a wide range of ideas in there. We look at various levels and how to roll metrics up, particularly in an environment where we have very disparate teams. So, because that's the reality on the ground, right? My team will, we're focused on certain outcomes, so we will have a certain collection of metrics. Your team is focused on different outcomes. There might be some overlap, but your focus, we might be, both of us are trying to improve quality, for example. But your team is focused on other outcomes, so you will have a different collection of metrics. My team might be building a physical building, so the way that we measure quality will be very different than your team, which is building a software application, right? So it makes sense that we both measure quality, but we'll do it in very different ways. And yet we still need to roll up the quality metrics, because at a portfolio level, I hope somebody's interested in this question of, well, are you achieving your outcomes? And particularly when there's corporate level outcomes of, we want to improve quality by 20% by the end of the year, whatever the outcome is. We need to be measuring quality in a manner that is specific for the situation that the team faces, and yet still roll it up in an intelligent manner. So these are the sorts of things that the microcred goes through. And we actually work through a case study where it's an organization that's building software, it's building, doing some systems development, it's installing technology and software into their vehicle fleet, and they're building a new, it's not a warehouse, but it's a new building, can't quite remember what the building was for, but it's a building, right? So it's a very tangible physical project. So anyways, and then of course, all the issues of how do you manage it at the portfolio level. So why should you be interested in this? Well, metrics and your approach to measurement is absolutely critical to your success. And I hope I'm preaching to the choir on this one. But having said that, a lot of organizations really are struggling with how do you do this in an agile environment. And I'll still go back to as soon as I hear a request for tell me the top 10 metrics, I know you're struggling. That's the wrong question, fundamentally the wrong question to be asking. Now, what are the top 10 metrics for measuring data quality? Okay, maybe we can talk about that. But anyways, so we need to learn how to do better. And measuring agile teams is different than measuring traditional teams, and rightfully so. But I'm sure your organizations are mostly hybrid, where you've got some agile teams, some traditional teams, some lean teams, some mix thereof, and they should all be measured, and you probably want to roll them up and all that good sort of stuff. So this is a reasonably important and reasonably complex topic that is important, particularly to the project management community, but I suspect to the overall leadership community. So what's the current state? This will be available in September, in a little over a month, sometime in September. I don't have an exact date for that. So let's assume before September 30. And it will appear as an option in your My PMI dashboard. And of course, there'll be pages on PMI.org and good stuff like that for it. So keep your eye out for this. Another thing that has, accreditation that has come out recently is the Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant. And this is something we've been working on for a while. I think some of you on the course or on the call tonight have actually been involved in the pilot and over the last few months, and have been involved with learning the stuff. The DAVSC certification training is available right now. There may even be a workshop going on right now at this very moment, for all I know. There's many instructors delivering these workshops, with hopefully more coming up soon. So the DAVSC focuses on how do you make value streams effective? How do you bring products and services to your customers and do so in an effective manner and in an evolving manner? So how do you improve the way that you're working together, particularly when it's multiple teams working together to fulfill the overall value stream? And then how do you do cross-team improvement, and how do you help just the team get them working together, let alone how do you do improvement and look at the overall picture. So that's what the value stream consultant focuses on. So why do you want to do this? It's all about serving your customers better, or in the case of government agencies, serving the citizens better. So we work through how how can you improve, what are some common problems that you'll see in the overall value stream? How do you address those common challenges? How do you, what are your options for doing so? And then how do you detect them? Is an interesting issue. And then how do you address them? How do you do continual or continuous improvement based on your situation? And how do you do so when your organization probably has multiple value streams? And they all work differently, and rightfully so, because you have different ways of bringing potential value to your customer, to your citizen base, and so your value streams are unique. And yet, still, all people involved still need to work together and still need to be as effective as they can, and be constantly trying to improve, to become more competitive, and to better serve the customers. So this is what the value stream consultant focuses on. And how do we improve collaboration across the organization? How do we help disparate teams improve, and in like non-IT aspects of the organization? Many companies, many organizations tend to struggle with bringing agile and lean outside, and particularly agile outside of IT. And yet there is significant room for improvement in the way that we approach sales and marketing and finance and procurement and many other aspects of what we do as organizations. And certainly, the procurement team needs to work with a wide range of teams, and is an important aspect of value streams, as others.
Vegetable
If everybody could go on mute, that would be great. Yeah, thank you. So current state, it's being offered right now. There's detailed information on the site on PMI.org, and there's public workshops. That's what when you do look for fine training, you can see the publicly offered workshops. Organizations are now bringing instructors in-house to deliver DAVSC training to their own internal staff as well. So that's a good option for large organizations that need have lots of room for improvement, would be the polite way of saying that. Anyways, so yeah, it's happening. The next new cert in the DA space is the Disciplined Agile Coach, and this is still what's happening to my computer? There we go. This is, as you'll soon see, this is something that's about to be released. It's in pilot right now, so I'm not sure if anybody on this call is involved in the pilot. If so, and I'm eager to hear your feedback. Through the normal venue for doing that, not here. But yeah, because anyways, I'm happy to hear about it later, without a doubt. So so what is the Disciplined Agile Coach all about? So it's basically answering the question, how do you coach at the team or team of teams level? So you might be coaching at the program level, but it's also, how do you coach across teams? Because, and this is something that I believe is unique to DAC, because the DA toolkit explicitly addresses business agility and all aspects of your organization. The implication of that is a coach, like a Disciplined Agile Coach, could be coaching in any part of an organization. And because your organization is a complex adaptive system, teams working together and collaborating together, I hope, in order to achieve some value for your customers or your citizens, then the question and disparate teams, right? So how do you help disparate teams who often have very different ways of thinking and backgrounds and bodies of knowledge and priorities, and how do you get them to work together more effectively? How do you convince them to experiment with new ways of working that they both might be uncomfortable with, but because I have one team that wants to work in a very traditional manner, say, and another team that wants to work in a very agile manner, and yet they still need to collaborate together because they're part of an overall value stream, or they're part of something bigger. I would just call it, let's just say it like that way. We need to find a way to work together, and that means that both of those teams probably need to be prepared to give up a little bit and to work in a different way. And so, how do you find the middle ground, and how do you coach these teams through experimenting with this middle ground and learning, choosing to learn, even when they have very different priorities, and might even be getting rewarded differently. And I'm sure you see this in organizations all the time when your team has to, whatever it is, say you're an IT team, and then suddenly you need to work with procurement in order to get new equipment, or to procure some outsourcing services. And the procurement folks have a very different way of looking at the world than the IT folks, and rightfully so. But they still need to work together, and they can't, and they got to figure it out. And there's room for improvement for both of them to learn from each other, and work better than if they had just dug their heels in. And of course, how do we do agile transformations? And in DA, we talk about true agile transformations. How do you become a learning organization? It's not just about how do you adopt a framework like Scrum or SAFe or LESS or others. That's not a real transformation. That's an adoption. And that's fine. That's often a very good start at becoming agile, but it's not the end goal. Your end goal is to become a learning organization. It's to be constantly improving and constantly getting better and adjusting and improving your way of working. That's what you should be aiming for, and those are the types of skills that we teach at multiple levels in our certifications, not just at the coach level, but certainly at the coaching level. This is because the coach is going to lead teams and teams of teams, collections of teams through this sort of stuff. So why? I should say Disciplined Agile Coach. My bad on the slide. I'll fix that before I send you the PDF. But anyways, it's all about increasing team effectiveness and increasing to accelerate improvement across your organization and across teams, and to improve flow, just to help your organization and your teams get better. In DA, we like to say that we teach you, we help you to get better at getting better. And this is certainly what the Disciplined Agile Coach is all about, and as well as the Disciplined Agile Advisor Consultant, and arguably the Senior Scrum Master cert as well. So current state, we are currently, we're like this close. So next week, we're going to start accepting applications for people to become DAC instructors. We've already been putting some people through the pilot, as I said, but now we're opening up publicly for all potential instructors. On the 24th, so in a week and a half, I guess it would be, we are going to be, you'll start seeing DAC workshops listed online, public offerings listed online, along with all the other courses we offer. So how do we learn more, or how can you learn more? So I'm gonna give you a call to action, and I'd invite you to learn more about Disciplined Agile and the various certification offerings that we have at PMI. So for those of you who are new to Agile and new to Disciplined Agile, you might want to start at the Disciplined Agile Scrum Master Cert. And this is about more than just Scrum. I suspect we may rename this cert at some point because the name doesn't really well describe, it doesn't describe well the breadth and the richness of what you learn here. There's the Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master, and this is for people who, particularly PMPs, that you're leading Agile teams, and you really need to have a better understanding of what enterprise class Agile is all about, like the Agile for grown-ups, and how do you lead improvement at the team level, and how do you actually apply the DA toolkit to get better at failing fast. So, for those of you familiar with Agile, there's, significant rhetoric right now about, we want to fail fast, and certainly failing fast is better than failing slowly. but it's still failure. You can put as much lipstick on that pig as you want and say, well, we're not really failing, we're learning what didn't work. Okay, fine, but you could be smarter about it. And DA is all about helping you to be smarter about that and to avoid common failures, to make better decisions as to what to experiment with. Because if you can make better decisions regarding the techniques you want to experiment with to see if they work for you, you'll fail less often, which means it's better, it's cheaper, and it's faster. So that's a pretty attractive value prop. Because your team probably faces problems that have been solved by other teams. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. The Disciplined Agile Coach leads improvement across teams and particularly disparate teams. And there's a lot of very interesting exercises in that workshop to work you through scenarios where you do exactly that. And then, of course, the DAVSC. How do you lead improvement across value streams and across your organization? So there's a lot, and I would say the same thing of the DAC as well. It really does apply to people who are doing enterprise class coaching. So anyways, there's a lot of great stuff. And of course, for those of you familiar with it, there's also the PMI ACP. This slide is focused just on the DA certs. So don't be concerned if the ACP is not here. Like I said, it's just focused on this slide is focused on DA only. ACP is not going anywhere, so don't worry about that. I get that question every so often whenever I show this slide. So anyway, so thank you very much, and I believe we've got some time for questions. So go ahead. Let's. I hope you have some questions for me.
Good evening, Scott. Just want to address the elephant in the room with the change in leadership. It looks like there's been no impact to Disciplined Agile at all.
No. Yeah, it's good. So you're referencing Sunil leaving PMI and Mike DePrisco stepping up. So I report to Mike and have done so for I don't know, year and a half, I guess. I've lost track actually. A long time. He's a very good person to report to actually. Yeah, Mike has been a strong believer in DA from the very beginning. He was actively involved with bringing DA into PMI, and yeah, it's been a phenomenally smooth change. One of the very first things Mike declared was that it's business as usual for DA, and actually we've seen increased support since then. So it's gotten even better for us.
Scott, there is a question from Rajeshwari. She's asking, are there any groups to discuss Disciplined Agile Coach approach? Basically, any learning or sharing before taking the actual certification?
Yes, sort of. So there is there's a community of practice set up for DAC. There's also one for DAVSC, and basically, as soon as you apply, as soon as you sign up for a workshop, you are added, you're invited into the COP for a couple of reasons. First, mostly so you can help each other learn, and study. There's study groups for the tests now and good stuff like that, at least for DAVSC, and I'm expecting to see the same behavior for DAC. And so it's all about sharing techniques and learning and working together. So, but you're invited once you've signed up. Now, if you want to ask questions from people that before you sign up, then I would suggest the LinkedIn group, the Disciplined Agile LinkedIn group, just the public forum.
Thank you, Scott. Tony, do you want to ask the question yourself, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I'll ask.
Thank you.
So Scott, when I first met you, I was out there as a Disciplined Agile champion on behalf of PMI Dallas. So there was the DALSM and the CDAC. And I don't know, 6-8 months ago, seems like a lifetime ago with what all we've been dealing with. But I was on some webinar and I asked, like, what do these translate to, since you guys seem to have parsed lean out as kind of its consultant path or what have you. What does the DALSM credential and CDAC credential align to now? Are they dust in the wind? Or, is this now that? Or if you have this, it's the equivalent of that now? Or is it like 6-8 months ago where there really wasn't a straight answer?
Yeah, so what happened actually at the beginning of the year, and I think it was a little bit later for the coaches, but we brought the Disciplined Agile membership officially into PMI membership, into the systems. And when we did that, we translated anybody who had the DALSM certification was made a Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master. Anybody who was a CDAC, a Certified Disciplined Agile Coach, was, you guessed it, was made a Disciplined Agile Coach. So yeah, it was a straight one-to-one translation on that one. Yeah, so everybody got grandfathered in.
Okay, and then if that's not showing up in our dashboard, do we email somebody like Sierra with credentials? Because I've customer care does.
Okay, so if that's not showing up, yeah. Okay, so if it's not showing up in your dashboard, email the certification people on that. Now, it could be an instance of your membership had expired. So if that's the case, some people weren't put in, but there have been a few glitches. So, but if it's not showing up in your dashboard by now, send an email to customer support and get it looked into.
Scott, let me help you. And Tony, if anybody has similar issue, please reach out to the customer service, because I do have similar issue with the micro-cert citizen developer course completion, and they sometimes have glitch, and they even don't see I even take the class, so I have to send them a screenshot of the certificate. It takes time for them to fix it, but Tony, if you need, let me help you with that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
There was a question from Amna for which Red has already replied, but for the benefit of others and Scott, if you want to add more. The question was, will micro credentials be for everyone who has got any kind of Disciplined Agile certification? And Red has replied that micro certifications usually will not have any prerequisites.
Exactly. So the micro creds generally do not have prerequisites. Now, having said that, in the future, maybe we'll end up with one. We certainly suggest that you have a basic understanding of metrics going in, which as a PMI person, I'm sure you do. But yeah, no, the micro creds are self-contained. The certifications, though, do have, in many cases, have prerequisites, except for DASM, which is geared for people with no experience or very little experience. But the rest of them have, just like ACP and PMP, they have experience requirements, in particular around Agile, for the DA certs.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering that question. I have a follow-up question. So when you talk about agile metrics for other other frameworks, are there any agile certs out there? I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't know. Around Agile metrics, I don't think so. But I could be wrong about that. You'd have to do a search.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them. I mean, normally we talk about like the burn down chart, the velocity, those are the agile, project metrics. And then if overall you always continuous improvement, system improvement is what you strive for.
Yeah. So, and this I think is the challenge with some of the methods and frameworks, is that they're prescriptive, right? And they're focused on certain things. So they prescribe a certain collection of metrics, and that's fine. But when but when you take like an OKR approach or a GQM approach, where you identify, here's what we're trying to improve, here's what we're trying to get better at, then suddenly you realize that burn down charts or velocity or whatever some of the management metrics are, they're great for certain things, but doesn't tell you anything about quality, doesn't tell you anything about team health and customer satisfaction. So you need to collect metrics for what you want to improve. And as we saw, and I'll go back to that slide, it was way back here. Oh, was that it? Yeah. Here's what, 10 or 11, probably more, about 12 or 13, I guess, potential outcomes, things that we want to improve. And, and these are just common potential improvements. So certainly, I'm sure some of you could say, well, wait a minute, we're trying to improve, the quality of the food in the cafeteria. Well, okay, it's not here. Oh, okay, fine. But so the point is, look at all these potential metrics, let alone, once you get down into the domain specific stuff, like for security and enterprise architecture and, legal and procurement and other good things like that. You end up with a very wide range of choices. And I'm also not saying that this is certainly not a comprehensive list. It's a pretty big one, but it's, I have no doubt there's things missing. And that's okay. We'll get, when we notice that, we'll get to it. So yeah, so it's, and so why am I saying this? So the challenge is when there's not a lot of, the frameworks and the methods folks, we got to be a little careful about what they're suggesting sometimes, because they'll be suggesting, I'm sure they're suggesting metrics that work very well with their method, but if their method doesn't cover the full gambit of what you're trying to achieve, then you're not going to not going to get the job done. So anyways, something to think about. Yeah, we're not limited. This is the one good thing about DA. We're not limited, and a bad thing too, potentially. We're not limited by the prescriptions of the methods.
Thank you. Yep.
Scott, I had a question. Are there any micro credentials or certifications which give more focus on how do we go about estimating for an agile project? Because when we come to waterfall model, we are used to that SMC way of computing or function points. But in agile world, we have to estimate in a different way. Is there anything we can do as a...
At the present moment, we don't have a microcred on that. But I would point you to Mountain Goat Software, Mike Cohn's company. I know he's got some phenomenally good material around agile estimation. So I would certainly recommend that. Start there as a good starting point.
Can you repeat that, Scott? What you said? Where I need to look for?
Mike Cohn, C-O-H-N. The company name is Mountain Goat Software. And if somebody could do me a favor and do a quick search on that and put it in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or answers?
What percentage of the ATPs are actually moving disciplined agile various classes as opposed to traditional PM?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm certainly that's certainly something that I could find out off the top of my head. I don't know. Although it's easy to calculate because we can. I know we do have those numbers. We do have the base numbers, but we're seeing more and more. I think certainly there's a greater focus on DASM and DASSM amongst the ATPs. And the other two are DAC and DAVSC are fairly new. I suspect one of the challenges with those is the experience requirement, because one of our philosophies is you have to hold the cert if you're going to teach the cert. And in order to hold the cert, you need to be experienced. So you need to have several years of coaching experience or several years of value stream experience, or in particularly agile experience. So one of the prerequisites for both DAC and DAVSC is to be a senior Scrum Master, which requires at least 3 years of agile experience. So so you got to be experienced in what you're going to be teaching. So how many ATPs have people with those experiences? I don't know. We'll see smaller numbers of instructors at the beginning as a result of that.
So with the disciplined agile side of things, is PMI controlling the supply chain like Scrum Alliance does, where you take their course, you take their test, versus the PMP where it ties to ISO 17024 and you can get the PMP training from whatever organization, but if you want DA credentials, it's only through a PMI training company?
Yeah, that's the case at the present moment. Yeah, and it's a quality issue.
Scott, I just want to give you some props. I love the restatement of the principles, the guidelines, and I can't remember the third category. I would love it if we were to start, when you start a transformation, have the leadership actually walk through each one of those, and then maybe they can get micro certs on I'm a DA leader, and that way they can truly understand that this is, to transform does require you to go through the big change instead of just adopting. Your thoughts?
I like that. I'm actually writing that down. We've got a list of potential microcreds we want to work on. I don't think leadership was in there, which is a blatant, obvious thing in my mind. So thank you for suggesting that. But yeah, absolutely. Now, having said that, we do have the Brightline organizational transformation certs, which focus on that topic and many others. And we are thinking about some sort of a DA transformation type of a cert, because it is, like I said, it is different. I think we have a much different value prop than what you see in the transformation, like in the framework transformation space. So, and that is on the list. So, and certainly it's something for leadership. Now, one of the things we do talk about in some of our transformation material, some of which is not yet published publicly, but actually the executive guide for Disciplined Agile has this. We highly suggest that executives get educated in Agile, they get educated in the realities of transformations, and get coaching and mentoring throughout the effort. Otherwise, stuff will happen. It won't be good stuff. Yeah, and I don't know how familiar you are with the stats, but you know, I believe it's McKinsey has some really solid stats showing that Agile transformations have a somewhere between a 70 and 80% failure rate. And I suspect a lot of that is because of leadership or lack thereof, and unrealistic expectations of how transformations actually work, and probably unrealistic goals on several fronts.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
It,
for
transformation's
everyone.
hard. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you so much for everyone. I just want to, I actually pinged Scott to let Scott know in our chapter, we have almost 20 Disciplined Agile Scrum Master. We have about 5, 6 senior Scrum DASSN, and we are continuing growing. We actually have a lot of people are learning Disciplined Agile, get certificates through P&I Untitled Chapter program. I just want to let Scott know we continue to grow in this community. Then next time, if you have the pilot program, make sure you send it our way. We will distribute to our member.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I should also point out that so Gerardo was kind enough to share a link to the Choose Your Wow book. You can, as PMI members, you can actually get a PDF free of charge, just like many other PMI publications. So if you go to pmi.org and do a search for Choose Your Wow, you can download a copy of the book. Now it's about 400 pages, so it's a pretty big PDF, but you can get a free one if you so desire.
So
and
Scott,
I believe
correct
the
me.
cover price is $20.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my take of Choose Your Wow. Choose Your Wow actually is a great book. However, a lot of information, if you didn't take the Disciplined Agile courses, sometimes you may get lost. It's a lot of tool, a lot of process break and process principle out there. I still highly recommend. I actually put 2 links about DASN and DASSN. P&I actually offer $300 courses for you to obtain this course. Of course, if you say, hey, I like instructor lead, it will take about $1,500 for those courses. Right now, P&I is offering that in a discounted price for member. I highly recommend you consider it. Otherwise, Scott, please forgive me. This Choose Your Wow can be hard to chew on without somebody leading you what those tools and blades is about. Otherwise, you like, it's like a dictionary. It is a toolbox. The toolkit, Disciplined Agile is a toolkit, a set of toolkit and rule and for you to use. It's basically like a Home Depot, and you have to chew on every single aisle what tool is located where. It would be hard. Just in my personal taste, Scott. Love you as a friend, but Choose Your Wow does need somebody guided.
Yeah, it does, and it's basically a reference manual. It's about 400 pages. The first 100 is an overview, and the next 300 are tables for the most part of reference material. So yeah, it's a big topic. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you really want the training to learn how to use the toolkit.
Yes, that's why, Scott, when you have something pilot program, send it your way. Dollar Chapter member will appreciate you.
Yeah,
okay.
and then May, I'll say this. Anybody that's a PM geek on this call, you check out Disciplined Agile, you're going to be getting your geek on. When we were in Vegas for 4 days, 5 days with Scott, man, it was for me, it was like building Lego with project management. To say it was beyond cool was an understatement.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, this is what we do is hard, and what I get concerned about some of the things that we see in the Agile community with, there's a lot of dumbing down of some very hard concepts, and you can argue this is happening in society in general, but certainly in the Agile community, there's been they've been overly focused on simplistic solutions, which sell very well, so I can't blame them for that. But you really, once you start looking at the real complexity and not be afraid to display, like look at this, look at this process blade here. Nobody else has a message this complicated or this comprehensive around metrics, really. Like certainly not in the Agile community. They're all looking for the top 10 lists, and there simply isn't any. At least, none that would actually cover what you need to do. And so, yeah, you're going to get your process geek on for sure, because there's a lot. There's a lot to this Agile stuff, just like there's a lot to project management. I don't know if anybody had noticed that or not, but it's hard to earn the PMP, as you know.
Oh, really?
Because project management is complex. Yeah. I don't know if any of you have noticed that. Maybe not. And project management is just one aspect of DA. So put things in context. But anyway, so it's an interesting world.
Yes, I just want to let you know, during the Disciplined Agile training, I was honored to be part of this Agile pilot program. Just by list chart will take about 20 minutes to explain how to use it, because today is not a Disciplined Agile training, so you may not fully understand what's going on, but everything in this chart has a meaning. The meaning of what is the suggestion tool, there